And we are live for the first Columbia Tools review podcast. Super exciting. We got Tay from PRC Tools, or PRC Taping, I should say. I think we're basically just going to talk about AngleHeads, right?
Yeah, let's talk about AngleHead.
Perfect. So it's AngleHeads month. It's January, brand new year. How's the year going for you so far?
Oh, I'm really good. Thank you, bro. And thank you for inviting me for this podcast. And I'm really appreciate to talk about AngleHead because it's one of the most the beautiful tools that I like.
Yeah,
So
so kind of right off the bat, when I started using the automatic tools, I was using the flushers, and then to me, that was like the biggest thing ever. You
yeah.
know, being able to run a flusher in a corner sped up the process like immensely. And then last January, Columbia sent me the set, and they're like life changing. It's
Yeah.
the speed difference is almost unbelievable. How do you typically run them? Like when you put your corners on, let's start there.
Yeah, like to be honest, I start taping with Flusher too.
Yeah,
So I only know about AngleHead after I start to work with Phil
yeah,
because Phil always he likes use AngleHead for everything. So he use AngleHead for taping, for finishing. So he showed me like how to run the throw box, how to use it properly the AngleHead for taping, and he told me, man, you need buy one for see the difference. And I
yeah.
say, really? Okay. I grab this tip and I do my best. And I think 2 days after, 3 days, I bought my first angle head and I
Nice.
start to run and I see the difference.
It's huge, eh?
So yeah, like unfortunately, sometimes we can use the angle head for all the jobs
Right.
because it's expensive too. So you need to see first how the board is going, because sometimes boardman they miss a lot screw on the corner, and if you don't see this and run the angle heads, probably you have problem. You need to change your blades, or even you need to change the whole kit. So, but all the jobs with Phil, he always makes sure is everything perfect. So I 9% of my jobs is from Phil.
Yeah.
So I always use angle head for Phil's job. But when sometimes I need to take job side job or subdivision, I prefer going with the flusher
Yeah.
because if for some reason I have problem and I don't have too much problem with expensive tool.
Uh,
So
up until this last site that I just did, I always used the smaller of the two flushers when I put my tape on, and then I would come back with the 3 and the 3.5 angle head. This site was the first site that I put the 2.5 with the tape on, and it was a huge difference. Like
yeah,
it fills that base coat really nice instead of like trying to rely on that 3 inch to do it. Phil takes his wheels off or something, doesn't he? Doesn't he do something funny with the 2.5?
yeah. No, he like to take off because to be honest, we don't need the wheels
Yeah,
for the temp. So sometimes the wheels make mark on the angle.
yeah.
So that's why he take off, and he to be honest, he take off for the finish too. So he don't like to use the wheels at all.
Yeah, I find every once in a while you get that like the tire mark on the wall. I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
doing that's making it do that, but it is. I take it out and I clean it up pretty good, and then I'll run it again. But yeah, definitely. You were saying before, yeah, if you're missing screws and you chip your blades, that's a big difference when you got to switch these out. Um,
Yeah.
I still haven't had to, luckily, but I've watched the Columbia footage on YouTube of doing it, and it's quite the process. It seems easy enough. It's just a little,
Yeah.
it's a little nerve-wracking when you start taking apart
Yeah.
these expensive tools. Uh,
Yeah, no, you're right.
Do you do anything special preparation wise? Like, do you lube them up, or how do you get started in a day that you're going to be running them?
Like every time that I use the angle head, I like to after finish, try give a quick clean
Yeah,
with water. And if I don't have like or a hole in the job, if I only have a pocket with water, I
yeah,
prefer put the angle head inside the plastic bag,
yep,
and then I bring home and I wash properly. But I always try my best to leave it kind of perfect,
yeah,
because I know if the mud dry inside, we have a lot problem for run again.
yeah.
And after a few minutes that I leave it just to dry a little bit, I usually put a fluid film
Yep, it's the
the
best.
wheels on the wheels, and sometimes I like to put on the top
Yeah,
when
anything
we,
moving.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I leave in my black box, and the next time that I run, I do the same
Oh,
thing.
that's how you store it.
Yeah, I put
That's
with
smart.
the fluid, to the fluid film, because some there's, but if for some reason you don't do that, I recommend every time before using, give it a quick lube, because it's better. Your angle head will run smoothly, and you don't have a problem.
So
So that's how I like to do it.
did you ever run it on the end of the tube, or did you always use a throttle box?
Yeah, I always use with the throw box,
Yeah.
but a few jobs I like to split. So there's a few jobs that I prefer use the 3 inch for taping and the three and a
Okay.
half for throw box. And some jobs I use 2.5 and 3.5. And if it is a job that the owner or the build is really peak, I like to run twice the throw box. So I
Yeah.
go with the 3.5 and 3, or sometimes I go 3 and 3.5. Like depends. Sometimes I look the job and I say, oh, this I run 3.5 and 2.5. Oh, this I do something different.
So it's
So
always
that's,
it's always kind of comes down to the per job basis.
yeah,
You gotta
yeah,
really see your corners for sure. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
sorry, go ahead.
I don't have like a regular system, a
Yeah.
way to do. Sometimes I always like to change and do something new.
I typically if I'm running it, I always do two coats with the angle box or the throttle box, I should say. It's just I'm usually on site, and my sites are so small that
Okay.
for me to run the throttle box is like maybe an hour,
Yeah,
maybe 2 hours, and the whole site's done.
yeah,
So for me to run my angles, once when the tape goes on, and then a 3, and then a 3.5 after that, it's not a big deal for me. When you guys are doing 10,000 board feet, it's a little bit
yeah. It's
it's
a
a little
lot.
bit different. Yeah.
Yeah,
um,
we always try do a twice if he is really, really bad, because sometimes the frame doesn't help.
definitely.
So yeah, but yeah, most of the time we just run once, but depends of the job.
Yeah, I like I was saying before, I used to run the flusher, and then I would run two coats with the angle heads. I don't think, like, now that I've used the 2.5 when I tape, you probably can
Okay.
get away with just doing one run with that throttle box.
Yeah.
Like it really does lay that first coat down real nice.
If you work by yourself, the
Yeah, I
throw
do.
box is really fast, because we just run once. Sometimes we do two run
Hmm.
just to make sure you be complete to cover the angle. But when we use the tube, some before I was doing my finishing angle with a tube
Yep.
and a roller, and then I come with the 3.5 flusher. So it's two jobs, two works.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that throttle box is clutch when you're running these things, because it's like when I first got these last year, I didn't have the throttle box yet. So
yeah,
I used it on the end of the compound tube, and then eventually I just ran the compound tube and then put this on the end of a pole. I found out that worked a little bit better, but as soon as I got that throttle box involved, it's like a
Yeah.
game changer.
Yeah.
And it's, very simple. I started onto these Facebook groups. There's a drywall mentors group that I'm a part of. And
Okay.
I posted my work. Like I've probably got, I don't know, I've probably used them 3 or 4 times all of last year, you know what I mean? Like on a sizable site.
Yeah.
And I'm super comfortable with them already. It really it does come down to the boarding and the framing though.
Yeah.
If that boarding and framing is good, these things just do their job.
Yeah.
It's kind of simple, right?
Yeah.
Um,
No, you're right. Yeah.
do you have any advice? Because you're typically like you're running these things every other week, I would guess, right? Like how quickly are you guys
Yeah. Yeah.
blowing through a house?
Like this last week, I was finishing 10,000 square feet barn,
Yeah.
and I have a helper with me, but I got the helper like 2 weeks ago, so he's
Okay.
still learning. So all these finished things I prefer to do by myself.
Yeah.
I usually take like uh 1 hour and a half, 2 hours to run the whole house. But we spend
Wow.
we spend more time because we need jump on the steels
Yeah.
and do the three-way and those things. So but yeah, no, the angle head for me, like I'm still sometimes don't like to use the angle head because I'm afraid to break or something like that.
Yeah, they're expensive.
But yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, like sometimes I have a lot problem because I usually like to clean the tape with the flusher and
Right.
then run the throw box for the finish. And I always rasp my taping, take off my taping, and I
Yeah.
was, what the hell is going on? And I say, Phil, please come here. I need your help. I'm doing something wrong. What's going on? Because every time that I try, and he told me, no, like if you want finish with the throw box, you need to have clean your tape first with the angle head too, because
Right.
he makes sure the all tape it's square and inside the corner. And the
Right.
flusher, fortunately, even a new one, they can do that. It's something only angle head is possible to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I find now with the angle head is I'm getting real close to that corner and I'm just pulling away from it. Like there's about this much of it that I don't even touch. And then the angle head leaves that extra mud in the
but
angle, and then I'll go and I'll pick it out. You do your 3-way and you're off to the races. I tint all my mud when I'm using the angle heads because I was finding that I would run them, but you can't see 100% if it's a perfect coat or not. When I
yeah,
when I when I tint it blue, I can plainly see that it's a full coat on it. And sometimes I'll run past it once or twice. Like I'm still trying to get down that how much pressure and what kind of angle and all that kind of stuff. Um, but tinting that mud, I find it to be a huge help. At least
yeah,
for
yeah.
for a beginner like me, right? Yeah, that's really interesting. Did you come across anything else this month that you wanted to talk about with the angle heads or?
Yeah, like Colombia invited me for do some stuffs about Anglehead this month, and
Mhm.
I feel like because since I started taping, Colombia was the first brand that I used for
Same.
box and flusher and everything. So I always have a dream. Oh, maybe one day I can do something for Colombia. And
Yeah.
the last CSR event, I have a privilege to meet Aaron,
Yeah,
and we
he's
talk
awesome, man.
about, yeah, he's awesome and super kind guy, simple.
Yeah,
If you
super
talk
humble.
to Yeah, if you talk with Aaron, you don't see like he's owner of a big company or something like
Yeah.
that. He's a kind of simple guy who like to help everyone. So but I'm from Brazil. and I try this month to give something within Portuguese, like do
You were
some
saying that.
contest in Portuguese. Yes,
Yep. Yep.
because I come here like immigrant, you know. Now I'm a resident, but I know there's a lot of people here. Unfortunately, they don't speak English, even
Yeah.
understand very well. And there's a lot of guy in construction. They want to like improve your quality or try change something in your system, but they don't know how to do it. They don't have any knowledge about a tool, and a lot of people don't want to spend too much money in something that they don't know, you know.
Totally. Yep.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Go ahead.
that's why that's why I'm doing a lot contest in Portuguese,
Hmm.
uh, because you know if you put on Google how to run the angle head, we have a
Yeah.
lot of things in English,
Probably all
and
English. Yeah. Yeah.
so but let's see. I'm really confident, and I hope I can help a lot of people
Oh, I
because
think you will right away. I think you will
yeah,
right away. Just like you said, having a voice out there in a different language, it's that opens up all of that to those people. Like if it wasn't realistically for Phil, that's where a lot of my content that I kind of absorbed came from.
yeah,
If there weren't guys like Brad and Phil out there, I don't know. There's no way I'd be taping. There's no way I'd be
yeah,
taping. I might have the tools, but I wouldn't understand like all the little hints and tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff. That's what kind of helps people go from here to here, you know?
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be great for the community having somebody that can make content for more people.
Thank
Um,
you. Yeah, it's nice to
Absolutely.
hear.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, that's exciting stuff. You'll just have to make some reels too, so it's not just all you talking in a different language. All of us can enjoy some.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
um,
no, for me it was the same thing like you. If it's not Phil or Brian or
mhm,
those expert pro that we have here, I probably I won't have my quality or my
no,
finish like that, you know, because I always like to say for Phil because when I arrive here and start taping, Phil for me is still being for me like I'm really fan for Phil. So every
same.
time that I wake up and I go and I see Phil and I say, "Oh man,
Ah.
I'm I'm doing a dream," because I always think about one day it's possible maybe do something with Phil or Evie, and now we have a good relationship, and it's for me like something unreal, and I always say like he always come and see, oh, looks nice, buddy. Oh, you
Yeah,
are cute this thing. And I say, yeah, that's why I'm cute this thing because I have a good teacher.
yeah,
So I always
yeah.
like to say that.
I would imagine he's a very helpful presence on site. He seems just very positive, right? Very chill. Yeah, it was funny at CSR. I met Brian. Brad was obviously there, like Aaron. And then when I went to meet Phil, I just kind of gave him a quick handshake and got out of there. It's I probably ingested more of his content than anybody else outside of Brad because he's a friend of mine. I almost like didn't want to bother him, you know what I mean? So when I got home, he was like, "We didn't get a picture," and I was like, "Wow." So
Yeah, I know.
we'll have to do it again sometime. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's that I think that's really the best part of this whole drywall community is just the little tips and tricks on how to do things because and realistically anybody can run the tools. It's how
yeah,
can you run them efficiently, and then how can you kind of get that quality just that little bit more, and it's guys like like you said, Brian and Brad and Phil, and they really make a big difference in that because they're not only have they mastered the tools, but they're also super happy to kind of like show everybody what they're doing. Which is again why it's so important that you're doing things that you're doing. So then, everybody that's it's Portuguese, right? From Brazil.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's Portuguese. Yeah,
So anybody that's speaking Portuguese, now you've branched out. Now all of them can take on the content as well, right? Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's a great thing that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, but basically, like the most important part of run the angle and throw box is the mud consistent.
100%.
Everyone like, oh, I'm have problem with the angle head, or I'm feel so tired because I
You
can't
just
run
push it.
the whole house. And oh, you are using throw box, man, this is heavy. And
Yeah,
I heard a lot of things like that. But the first time that I run the throw box, I felt the same thing
totally.
because I was like learning how to run properly, because we need to have a good angle with our arms and
Yeah.
everything. It's not like something just put in the angle and that's it.
Hmm.
So, but the mud consists help a lot.
Yeah,
We can, yeah,
I kind of found that, like you were saying, with that proper angle, the first time I used it, I was kind of out in front of my body. And
yeah,
then the second time I used it, I figured out that you want it behind you. And then it's just like it's a little bit of pressure here and a little bit of pressure here that kind of
yeah,
puts what you need into it. It's very graceful once you kind of find that
yeah,
perfect spot, right? Yeah,
yeah,
mud consistency is a bugger, man, because it's so hard to tell someone this is exactly it, because it's more about I always like when guys will whip up their mud and they'll grab a little bit on a knife and go like this, and it
yeah,
kind of shows you how quickly it should fall off of a knife. That's really the only way to really show someone mud consistency, right?
yeah,
And I also think a lot of guys that are new are worried about making it too runny, which you should be. You should be a little bit worried about that, but especially running the Predator, like I probably ran the auto taper for like 6 months before I had that mud consistency down, because you
yeah,
think it's way too runny, but then you start running it and you're like, this thing's a dream now.
yeah,
The throttle box is somewhat the same, right? Where
yeah,
there is that perfect consistency that the box is just doing its job, everything's doing its job.
yeah.
I'm a pretty big guy, and when I feel like something's heavy, it's like it's got to be heavy for everyone else.
Yeah, no, yeah. Everyone told asking me, oh, how is your mud consistent for predator or the angle head?
Hmm.
And like you said, sometimes it's hard to tell, because I usually like to split my sponge. First thing, I don't use the full sponge. I
Okay.
cut the middle, and so for me, sometimes I use four. Well, for example, 4 or 5 sponge. If you use the full sponge, it'll be different. If you put 4 sponge, you put more water than me. So,
Hmm.
and sometimes we make mistakes too. A lot times I have to leave one pocket full with mud because I put
Yep.
a lot of water and then mix a new mud, because
Yeah.
sometimes we miss something. But the only thing that I hate, I don't like everyone think, oh, all the tapers is dirty guy, they
Hmm.
make messy everywhere, and I'm the guy that I hate be dirty with mud.
Okay, so you're a
And
clean
so
taper.
yeah, I hate. So every time that I start to run something that I, even the flat box, when I start running, I see a lot mud come off because the mud is too thin.
Yep.
So I always go back in my station, mix a new mud, and
Yeah.
try again, because I hate it. I hate a
Add
lot.
add a little bit more. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You're obviously using no POC.
No,
Not at
I
all.
don't know.
Okay, okay.
When I was no work with Phil, I
Hmm.
usually use soap,
Okay.
and
Yeah, I heard a
then
lot of people do that.
yeah, and then I change for no POC, because I felt when I was sand, all my
Yeah.
eyes was like really red because the soap.
I
After that,
That's what I hear the most about people that are using soap instead of no POC. is it's your eyes, and if you're not
Yeah,
wearing a mask, it really bugs your throat.
yeah.
Yeah, I've been lucky that I've just always used the no POC, but yeah, it's funny that you say that because I'm hearing a lot of that.
Yeah, so the no POC help a little bit. You know, we don't have bubbles and
Hmm.
fisheye. But Phil changed my mind also with this thing, and he told me if you spend more time mix your mud, you don't have bubble as well. So,
Like,
like,
how long you mix it for?
yeah,
Yeah, that makes
sometimes
sense.
people want to like I want to mix faster
Mhm,
because I'm a piece of work, you know. I
mhm.
need to produce a lot, and but sometimes we need to spend more time in
That's right.
yeah, in some steps, you know.
There's an old saying that's, "Slow is smooth and smooth is fast."
Yeah.
And that's exactly it. Sometimes you gotta do that prep work to spend a little bit more time on that kinda stuff, and it really does help. How many boxes of mud are you usually going through in a day?
Like depends. You mean run the flat box,
With the throttle box.
the throttle box, like um when I was finished the 10,000 bar, I used maybe three box of mud, three
Yeah, that
box.
makes sense. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it depends. Sometimes if the mud is too thin, maybe use more because sometimes we need to run twice.
Right.
But if you leave a good mud consistent, I probably you need like 2 3 box of mud for run the whole house. I mean 10,000, 12,000, something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty big numbers, yeah. Yeah, and depending on like the bulkheads and all that other kind of stuff too, right? There's
Yeah,
there's definitely different reasons why you'll use more mud. I typically leave my mud a little bit thicker. I don't mind having to push that little bit just because if it's too thin, it's just a fucking mess everywhere. Yeah.
yeah,
Um, this is one of those things that I can say about Colombia though is the learning curve just to get going is not very steep with this stuff. Like you can pick up these tools pretty quick.
yeah,
Especially when you're talking about like the commando set to get you used to using a flusher. You could put anybody from the street in a house
yeah,
and they could use that. So when you get into like the angle heads, um, they're a pretty specific tool. Like
yeah,
it's basically like a box. Um, but again, it's not rocket science, right? It's just
yeah,
making sure that your mud is correct and that you're not digging into the wall, right? You got to let the tools do the work a little bit too.
yeah,
It's still really fun for me because I'm still figuring out all this stuff, right? I haven't run it for hundreds of hours. Um, yeah, so I like it. Yeah, hopefully you're going to be on for Throttle Box month, right?
yeah. I'm
Awesome.
doing for now that I know you'll be like the angle head month,
Hmm.
and May I will probably do some contests with the trail box.
Nice.
And maybe I will do something in March about handle, and I don't know yet. We still figuring out about March,
Hmm.
but like for me, I'm excited because I'm big fan from Colombia.
Same.
So I
They've done very well by me.
yeah,
Yeah, they've
so
been great.
I start taping use all Columbia tools, so
Hmm.
that's why every time that I go buy something for improve my job, I always go through Columbia first.
Same.
And yeah, and to be honest, for me, I like to call it in Portuguese. We always see when you have a good product, he is a 3B. Like we say, good, cheaper, and quality.
Yep.
So I can find those three things in Colombia too. So that's why I like. It's not expensive too. And other thing that we need to mention is if you have any problem or if you
Oh,
need to like change anything, you have like easy access to buy, and you can go CSR or you can go a Claire. You can go, even if you send a email for
Mhm.
Colombia, they always have something, and also they have videos for show us how to do it properly, the maintenance for the tools.
And I was going to touch on that. It's like the customer service for these anything Colombia just seems to be so amazing. Everybody over there seems very kind. I've never had any sort of a funny rub with anybody from Colombia. Everybody has always been there immediately. And you can get their stuff anywhere. Like
Yeah,
FBM carries Colombia now, and they're like a big supplier. They're not like a CSR where you would go and purchase a bunch of tools from them, but they've got the whole Columbia line, and
yeah,
they're everywhere.
yeah,
And then if you want to do your maintenance, like you said, you can go on YouTube. There's tons of content on YouTube about it. And then if you are close enough to CSR, you could just take it there. They're happy to
yeah,
clean it, do all the maintenance. It comes at a price, but that's what I'm going to be doing moving forward. Now that I'm done on this last site, I'm going to take my Predator in and see what they'll do about it. Just give it a tune up, and then I'm going to do a big post on that because I know they're going to do a good job.
yeah. No,
Okay.
yeah, they always do a great job.
Yeah, I love CSR. It's anything that I do for taping specifically, I always go to CSR, and I'm in Cambridge. I drive an hour or so to go.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
Now
I'm happy
I'm
to.
yeah now I'm living in Eastfield, so I need to drive a little bit.
Mhm.
But I heard something. Maybe CSR you open a store maybe in North. I don't know yet,
Oh, nice.
but
Okay.
you'll be like, for me, you'll be amazed because I probably drive less than I driving right now.
Oh, totally. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, that's awesome, man. You got any shout outs that you want to do?
Oh, like, to be honest, the only thing that I wanna share is, if you never use AngleHead, everyone, I think it should be try even once to see how far they work, you know.
Mhm.
And if you do that, you see, like you said, the game will change a lot.
Totally.
So maybe you take more time to learn. Sometimes, for example, when I start to run the Predator, I think like thousand times to come back for the old style, because always when I try cuts, I cut less shorts the
Yeah.
tape, and I need to come back, fix all those mistakes. And I always say, "Oh man, I'm spending more time." But at the same time, I always keep putting in my mind, no, if you don't practice, I never learn. So
Practice
that's
makes
why,
perfect. Yeah.
yeah. So that's the only thing that I like to share. People in construction, especially taping, need to see how the angle head work, because I never see some to work deliver a great corner like the
Mhm.
angle heads, and even the throw box. Because if you don't use throw box, in my opinion, you can have a good quality in your finish.
It's not going to be nearly
Even
as
with the
fast.
tube, yeah.
Yeah.
Even with the tube, you can use the tube and then go ahead. But I don't know. It's my opinion. I don't like to run the tube with the angle head. I prefer the throw box.
Yeah, I feel like if I were to give anybody any sort of advice, and take it with a grain of salt because it's me, but the if I were to be getting into angle heads, I would pick up a 3 inch, and I would not run it on the tube. I would run it on a stick like you do your other ones. And
Yeah,
that'll really give you an idea of what these tools do when they're running. Because you really do need to get your hands on it and see it and go, wow,
yeah,
it's a crisp coat.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And that begins that ball rolling. Because
yeah,
once you get good at doing that, you're not going tube and then this and then back and then
yeah.
forth. The angle or the throttle box is, it's a price point for sure, but that first site that you have it on, it's gonna fucking pay for itself.
Yeah,
It
we
it
can. we can think with only money, because it's an
That's right.
expensive tool. But if you think like,
It's an investment.
okay, yeah, I spend that money in one tool, but they will give you back for sure. Like, there's some jobs that I even need sand after run the throw box because
Mhm.
it's perfect.
Yeah,
I
you're just
just
kind
need to
of little
check,
bit.
yeah, because if we sand, we take off all the mud that we left, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But
That is another thing that I'll mention is when you go from flushers to angle heads, that sanding is not very much. It really is.
yeah,
It's just enough to get the high points. Okay, man. Well, that's
okay.
awesome. Thanks for joining us, and then we'll be back next month for next month's tool. And
Thank
thank
you
you
so
very
much.
much.
I appreciate your invite again, and it's a privilege to talk to you. And let's see and try see if you can do something next month.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Be humble, treat everyone the same, and do your fucking job.
Do your fuck job. Yeah.